So I went off to Berkeley, I majored in math, and when I finished there, I thought about going to graduate school, but I decided I really wasn't ready because I didn't want to make that kind of commitment to studying. And so I decided to get a job. And I had a close friend who had graduated from Stanford, and we decided to move to the Boston area because my father grew up here. And I came to Boston and I went to look for a job. And I couldn't find a good job as a mathematician, which is not surprising since you really need more than an undergraduate degree in math to do interesting math. But I was offered a job as a programmer. And at this point, I didn't even know computers existed. I had never heard of a computer. And they were hiring people like me who knew nothing about computers because there was no computer science department. There was nobody graduating from college who knew how to program. So they would hire anybody that they thought might be able to do the job. And I went to work at a place called the MITRE Corporation. And my first day on the job, I was handed a Fortran manual, and I was asked to write a program to do some little thing that they described to me. I've forgotten what it was. And I discovered this field that I knew nothing about that was really interesting and really fit my abilities. And so I was off to the races then. That's how I discovered computer science. I worked at MITRE for a year, and then I switched and worked at Harvard for a year. At Harvard, I worked on a machine translation project, and I was actually maintaining a big program. It was in those days, you used to have printouts, and that printout was 2 or 3 inches thick. And my job was to maintain that code, and it was written in machine language. So one of the 2 benefits of that job, I learned how the machine worked. So I learned about computer architecture, and I also learned about what it means to write good and bad code, because when you're maintaining somebody else's code, you certainly see both the good points and the bad points. Anyway, way through that period and working in this job, I decided to go to graduate school because I felt that although I was learning a lot, I was basically self-taught, and I think it seemed like I could make a lot more progress going to school. And I decided to go back to Stanford because I felt like it was time to come back to California. So that's sort of how I got into the field.
And when did you come back to Palo Alto then?
I came here in 1963, so I worked for 2 years and then I went back to graduate school.
How do you think, so, a lot of undergraduate students are thinking about this in this moment right now. Do I go straight into graduate school, or do I take a moment to go out and work for a little bit and then come back? It sounds like this process of actually getting out and working for a little bit was very influential in what you decided to study. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I think it was obviously crucial for me. If I had gone on the way I was going when I finished my bachelor's degree, I probably would never have ended up where I ended up. I think that in a way what happened because I went and looked for a job is that a door opened that I hadn't expected to see. And actually, I think these kinds of moments happen in many people's careers. You think you're on a certain path, you discover along the way some opportunity presents itself and you move in a different direction and it just changes the way your life is. As far as the question of should you go on for a graduate degree right away or is it okay to go and work instead, I always tell my students that it's a personal decision. What you're looking for in a career is something that you're good at and something that you like. Because if you don't have both of those things, you're not going to be successful. But exactly what that's going to be for you, it depends on you. And you have to find a path and figure it out for yourself. And so there isn't a right or wrong answer here. It's just you sort of follow your nose and things will happen.